Death is the one story every life shares, but the conversations around it rarely happen. Welcome to the show that opens the doors to the funeral profession. The people, the stories, and the truths most never hear. This is As the Hearse Turns.
And it is Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday fun day.
We're a few minutes early, so we'll just give people time to hop on.
Yeah, seeing, and I know I didn't save any or screenshots of the of some of the questions or anything, because I know a lot of the questions were just sent by Messenger, and I don't know if people wanted to, if they send it through Messenger. I didn't know if they wanted to have their information put out there. Messenger. I'll tell you, I really wish though that Mother Nature could make up her mind what she wants to do with the weather, because it is nasty out today. It is cold.
It was raining like crazy this morning. I mean, we're not far from you, but I was laying in bed thinking, poor Addie and Dakota, they were out on that call. And there's nothing worse than going out on a call when it's raining like that. You end up going into the house looking like a wet dog.
You are soaked. There's no in between.
People are slowly starting to hop on.
Yeah. And again, it was a last minute decision and stuff like that. So we'll see what comes. I think. I wonder. Comments. Susan's from Cleveland.
All right. You know what? I don't think I said that I wouldn't share it to the Burke page, so I will share it.
So are you excited for ICCFA soon?
Yes, I am. It's going to be different, I think, than NFDA. But I don't know how. I mean, is it going to be as big? Have you ever done one of these?
I haven't. ICCFA, I have not. I've never been there. NFDA, obviously. I mean, it's going to be just like NFDA.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, a different organization.
Right.
But it'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like connecting with the vendors and individuals that we work with. So, yeah, looking forward to it. It's a little nerve-wracking going away, though, the end of the month, because there's a lot going on right now.
Yes.
But we're going to be away. I think we leave Wednesday morning, so we'll be there Wednesday night, Thursday night, and then we come back Friday night. So quick trip, but
you're not kidding.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure Nathan said we have our post-construction cleaning scheduled for the end of the week.
So you'll be coming back with a white glove to go through the new funeral home, just to verify everything?
We're having two post-construction cleanings. So okay. Stewart and Tate will have their company come in, whoever they use, and then we have our company who will be cleaning for us on a regular basis. They'll be coming in. 2 cleanings, both top to bottom, detailed cleanings. I think we'll be good to go. Nathan just said something to me earlier today. He wanted me to do something on, was it? I don't know what it was. Something. Oh, some like mommy and me cookie baking class somewhere. And it was on Sunday. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. We have too much going on. But
I mean,
classes here. What?
A for effort.
Yeah. I mean, once, and that's what stinks right now is we're limited with what we can do because we haven't had the cleaning done. Once the cleaning's finished, we can get in, we can start hanging pictures, we can start organizing our offices, but we can't do anything right now.
Yeah, because again, there's so many little details,
right,
that still have to be taken care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now all like the door hooks went up in the bathrooms on Friday. I was down there touching up paint on the lights, and that was tough because the lights didn't come with touch-up paint. So I had ordered about 5 different paints from Amazon, and I found an auto body paint, and it worked perfectly.
Hey, that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, gotta do what you gotta do.
You got the problem, you
Yeah.
figured out the solution, and you fixed it.
Right. Yep. But yeah, a lot going on, and I feel bad because my sister-in-law, her birthday is coming up, and she was going to do a brunch over the weekend that we are having open houses. And I said, as much as I'd love to come to the brunch, we got to get into the funeral home.
I mean, and then we've always got the contingencies too, because now here's the question: what's gonna happen if a call comes in?
Between moving out of Berg, the current building, and moving into the new one.
Or say, a day or two prior to the open house.
We're going to chat with the state board inspector about that, but I am pretty certain that they would allow us to operate out of the current location.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I was like, that could throw a wrench in things.
Yeah. And hey, once we have the furniture and once we're set up and ready to go at the new location, I'm ready to operate out of there. I have a feeling that's going to happen before the open houses.
You have that.
That's
it's just like gut feeling. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's why furniture is getting delivered 2 days before we have our inspection.
Yeah. And it's just, what do they say? Like whatever the law is or something like that. If it's going to happen, that's when it's going to happen.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Let's see.
The people are hopping on.
So there's Gina. Gina is a really good friend of ours, and her fiance Bob are being married in September, and they are huge into the paranormal. They actually make all of the equipment that Skylar uses.
Awesome.
And I wish that I'll have to send them the video and get their input and 2 cents into things.
Yeah.
Murphy's Law. Yes, Gary, that's what it was. Murphy's Law. Thank you, sir. All right, so we got about 83 people.
Okay.
So again, just Sunday, nothing formal, because again, Thursday night is where you want to be. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this week. We'll have Sean Revive, and we are going to go down the rabbit hole about Noble and the tri-state crematory scandal. I know you said, Catherine, I'm sure you'll have plenty to say once you pick your jaw up off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm at the very end. I'm at the very end of the podcast. Interesting.
Sad.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the best way I can describe that. Is it is it's sad that even occurred.
Yes.
But again, it's one of those things that I think that we need to address and talk about, because if we forget our history, it is bound to repeat itself. So.
Well, and that brings up something I want to talk about. I came across a post this morning on Facebook. We got a call around 4 a.m. and of course I can't fall back asleep, so I start scrolling on Facebook, hoping to make myself tired so that I can fall back asleep. And I came across a post in a group that I'm in for morticians. And the person said, let's say you work for a funeral home. Let's say a family had their loved one cremated with a different funeral home. Let's say the family has brought you ashes requesting a division. And let's say the cremation ID disc number on all their paperwork does not match the number attached to the bag of the ashes released to them. Let's say you informed the family of what you discovered and they seem surprised, but like they don't want to accept what that could mean. Is there a next step that should be taken as an uninvolved third party? For background, let's say this is all happening in a state with a lot of negative publicity already. Colorado. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in these groups, and I'm calling myself out here because I'm gonna say, hey, it was me that commented. But in these groups, I like to comment under an anonymous name. So I'm Clever Penguin $73.49.
All right.
Because I get a lot of pushback from other funeral directors, and some of them don't like our presence on social media. But I commented and I said, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. This is a situation that should be reported to your state board, and I would respectfully explain to the family that you cannot be involved. If you're the only one raising concerns and they continue to push for the division of remains, that's business I would be comfortable walking away from, regardless of potential future services.
So let me process, because I never saw the post. So someone would come into Berg with cremated remains.
That
you did not do the cremation.
Right.
And asking you to either fill an urn that they had purchased, or they want to separate the cremated remains.
Yep.
Upon you opening the temporary urn, and I guess you would have a cremation certificate or something to be able to match the disc number to the actual disc attached to the bag. And those numbers do not match.
No.
So here's my question. And this might be a good policy to implement, is if that were to happen, are you opening the urn in front of the family? Are you going to take the new urn, take the temporary urn, go to the prep room or wherever where you were going to do the transfer, and then you discovered? Or are you opening that and verifying everything in the presence of the family where they're going to see the cremated remains?
It should be done in front of the family.
It should be, absolutely. Now, as we're talking it through, but do you think that always happens? Because it's maybe the family doesn't want to see the cremated remains.
Yeah.
So now you're having to come back after you've gone out of eye shot or whatever and say, hey, by the way, it doesn't match. Or
if someone were to call into the funeral home and say, hey, we had dad cremated with XYZ funeral home. Can we bring him into you, and you divvy up the cremated remains into 5 keepsakes? We can say, yes, we need the certificate though, to ensure that,
chain of custody. We're dealing with the who it is. But no, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I wouldn't touch that. It's, hey, this is what's going on. One, you need to call your contracted crematory or funeral home that you utilize, tell them what was discovered. And then depending on the state, whoever oversees crematories needs to be contacted. But here's the problem. The earnest is on the funeral home that released those cremated remains back to the family. Because when cremated remains come back to us, we have multiple pieces of paper. We have the cremation certificate. We have, the other paper that Evan sends us. And then the disc all have the number on there. And I always verify that because, one, I want to make sure everything's spelled right and those type of things before giving it to the family.
Yeah.
So obviously the funeral home that gave those cremated remains did not check anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or God forbid, what happens if the funeral home actually mixed up those cremated remains? That's why you only handle one set of cremated remains at a time.
Yep.
Never do you have 2 sets of cremated remains. You're filling 2 urns at one time. That's just, you do not ever do that at all.
Yep. Those stickers stay on those temporary urns until we give them back to the family.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's always identification. And I'll even put a yellow sticky note on the temporary urn as well. They have the one on the bottom, you have one on there. You never want to have that. No, that's asking for that. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yep.
Let's see. So I know there was one I sent you yesterday that I said I think it would be really good to talk about from the perspective of a mom and a funeral director.
Did you text it to me?
Yeah, I texted it to you. It was off of one of the short reels that I posted the night before where we were talking about the belly. It was like the trocar.
Yeah.
And Sarah
Smith.
Yeah, and asked a couple questions, but then that screenshot there that she attached to the comment.
Okay. Sarah says, is this a video where we were talking about the trocar?
It was, but I think they were talking. So she discusses that, but she goes, I do have one question. I found this in the comments of a news story a while back where someone was talking about carrying around deceased babies. Several mothers who had lost children commented afterward that it was something comforting to them. Is this something that actually happens? And then there's a screenshot here, and it cuts off who the person was, but the person that commented says, I used to do this too. I mean, I didn't take the babies home, but I would carry the baby around and hold them. All the embalmers did. We would talk to them like they were still alive, and we didn't even like leaving them alone in the fridge.
Yes. So, yeah, I will hold a baby. One thing I will say though is on a lot of our videos, I notice that people will comment, and I want to be cautious with how I say this. We'll have people comment and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that all funeral directors are like this. I'm so glad that this is how my dad. Where did that little twang come out of?" They'll say, I'm so glad my dad was treated this way at the funeral home. Meanwhile, they used a funeral home in Indiana 15 years ago. I can only speak to how we do things at our funeral home.
Absolutely.
I think we see, based off of stuff we learn in the news, that not all funeral homes are the same. And when I get these comments, I never want to I don't comment back. Basically, I don't comment back, because what am I going to say? Well, not all funeral homes operate that way, and I don't want it to seem like we're putting ourselves on a pedestal. I only know how we operate. Do all funeral directors do this? I don't know. I do it though. Whenever we have a baby in our care, we will always get the baby, dressed. I'm a mom, and it hurts to see babies. I'll never forget the first time Nathan had to go to a hospital out of the area, and he, of course, he texted me when he got there, and he said, I'm going to get her now. And then he texted me when he got back to the van. I have her with me now. She's here in the van in the back. And when we got back in the prep room together, he, of course, brought the baby in from the van, and we opened up our little pouch. We have a little carrier that we have for babies, and we got her out on the prep table, and we both just stood there and cried and cried and cried.
Yeah.
But we're parents, and whether you're a parent or not, as long as you have a heart, I think something like that's going to affect you. But do all funeral directors walk around cradling a baby? No.
I know I have never, cradled or, held a baby that I was caring for. Now, I will say this. It does seem like I'm extra gentle and extra methodical. Mm-hmm. And, when done, like I used to tell Skylar, like I would make her a baby burrito,
Yeah.
and it's like the same thing. And you take those extra steps,
Yes.
and it's hard to explain unless you've been there and you've been in that position. It's kind of hard to really explain the feelings and emotions.
Jewel just commented, and she said, I was told that they did this with my boys. Okay,
they
Jewel
spoke with Bo his entire embalming and held him close for a period of time. Yeah. I'm thankful.
Jewel, I knew Patty really well, and Patty had the biggest heart, and she just took care of those babies. She loved those babies at Harkins, and every now and then she would text me and let me know, that we're caring for a baby at this time, and just keep the family in your thoughts and your prayers. So I have no doubt that that's how everything was handled at Harkins.
Yeah. Billy asked, have you ever had a decedent request only a direct cremation with no service, obituary, memorial, or anything else? It happens all the time.
We had 2 in the last 2 weeks. I've had, we've actually been very busy up at Berg, but we had 2 particular individuals. You would never know that they were with us. Family didn't want an obituary, no service, nothing.
Death notice, anything.
Yeah.
Wanda asked, "Do you allow a family member to be present for the cremation?" That can be scheduled and arranged. Absolutely. If they want to go witness, you wouldn't be there for the entire cremation because you're talking about 3 to 4 hour period. But the initial start to the cremation process, seeing your loved one actually be placed into the cremation chamber and then being afforded the opportunity to actually start the process yourself, that can be arranged. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hi, Christine.
Is she related to Addie?
Christine is Addie's son's grandmother, I think.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah.
I noticed the last name.
Yeah, Christine is Tyler's mom, and Tyler is Addie's ex-husband.
Okay.
And he's awesome. I love Tyler. He's so much fun.
Let's see if we have anything else. Because I know we had a couple. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything out of the chat. But I know you said we had a couple really good questions that have been sent to us just through direct messenger on Facebook.
Yes. So Dawn had reached out to us earlier and she says, "Hi, Catherine and Chris. Absolutely love you and this page. I can't thank you enough for educating the public. Knowledge is a powerful thing. I'm a hospice nurse from Indiana, so I've seen a lot in my career. But this one thing I just cannot get past, hoping you can help. I think I know, but not sure I know. My uncle was a cross-country truck driver. About 30 years ago, he was found deceased in his big rig in LA, California." So remember that. He was in California.
Okay.
And they speculate he was dead for 2 days before he was found. My grandparents went through so much to get his body back to Indiana. One of our local family trusted funeral homes took over the care of him. When he was presented to the family first, it was the most horrific picture I've ever seen. He was actually the darkest gray/blackish color I've ever seen. What made things worse was gnats were flying all over his face and torso. We were not warned or told he did not look good or asked if we still wanted to keep the casket open. Were there some missteps in the embalming process, the transit preparation? Was it just the fact that he was gone for a few days? We as a family were absolutely mortified by what we were seeing. Now, every time I go to any visitation, no matter where, I wonder if I'm going to see gnats flying around the deceased. To make things even more disheartening is the fact that the funeral director, as we were receiving guests, pulled my grandfather out of the visitation to write a check. This upset us highly. Yeah, that shouldn't have happened. Couldn't this have been taken care of prior or after all the guests left? P.S. My grandparents, who were never one to skip out on paying the bills. Can you give an explanation as to possibly what happened here? Thank you so much, Dawn. If he was in a truck for 2 days,
if there was no air or in California, depending the time of year, absolutely, we're talking. So one thing, like, you have to understand is that as soon as someone passes away, decomposition begins, and honestly, decomposition sometimes even begins before the person passes away. Internally. So whether he was so far now, was he does she give any inclination? Was he transferred back?
Yes. So they were.
Visitation?
She's saying that she's in Indiana. So was he transported from California
back to Indiana?
Right. I'm assuming he would have been embalmed prior to
transfer.
Right. Was it a shoddy embalming job? I don't know. I think you and I both know that sometimes there's only so much you can do.
But I mean, even because there are cases, and I think that we've seen some of the comments come through. Somebody did ask, at what point would we tell a family that embalming was not, possible because of such advanced decomposition? And I mean, everything is going to be on a case by case basis.
Right.
You know, someone may be perfectly fine from the waist up, and then from the waist down, you know, and then there's certain things that we can do to treat, and things, you know, plastics and undergarments, things like that.
Hmm.
But I mean, advanced decomp, there's if like horrible skin slip, and if the body is covered with gnats, that would lead me to believe that there was probably maggots present as well. And once you're at maggotish, there's things you can do to you can use kerosene. There's different things that you can use to stop maggots from forming, but one, the embalming sounds like it was completely botched. And then second, it sounds like the funeral director did not direct and pick up the phone and have a conversation with the family.
And those are tough conversations, but we have a duty to.
We have a fiduciary. Absolutely.
Yeah. I had to do that earlier this week. We had a viewing, and I said, I just want to make you aware of a couple things. And the family was prepared going into it. But I don't think that people truly realize, you know, outside of, you know, funeral service, the general public, how quickly decomp sets in. I mean,
it starts immediately.
Yes.
And that is why we always, you know, if we can get verbal permission to embalm, we do so. Because the quicker we can begin the embalming process, the better the results.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a situation where a person doesn't have to be placed in refrigeration and they can go right from the place of passing to our care and we can do what we need to do, absolutely. You know, you're going to have better distribution.
Right.
You know, there's so many factors that go into that behind the scenes.
Well, and you know about the call Dakota and I went out on like 2 months ago. It was that call at 3 a.m. where when we got to the residence and the next of kin.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of went off the deep end a little bit and said, well, I'm not giving you permission to take my loved one. And I said, well, you know, you called us down to the residence. What are you going to do? Do you have refrigeration on site? Do you have dry ice? Do you realize how quickly this situation is going to go south if you don't allow me to take so-and-so into my care? And state police were involved. It was messy. So long story short, Dakota and I ended up leaving. The police ended up leaving. The deceased individual ended up staying in the home with the next of kin. And I think later that day, the coroner got involved, police got involved. They ended up getting the deceased individual out of the home. But, you know, we're like, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
So Dawn actually is in the live here.
Yeah.
And she does say he was flown back to Indiana.
But he was embalmed in California, Dawn. Is that correct? Whenever you have a chance to reply, just let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was such a messy situation. And again, I think, you know, sometimes there's this misconception and from the general public that funeral directors are all about money, money, money. That call where the next of kin wouldn't allow us to bring the loved one into our care at the funeral home. I called the coroner's office later that day and I said, I just want to give you a heads up. We don't even want to get involved in this situation. It's too sticky at this point. Something doesn't sit right with me and I'm just not comfortable getting involved. And they did end up going to another funeral home out of the area, but that was a wild situation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure at a certain point for, you know, public health, safety, sanitation, whatever, that the coroner would actually come in and take custody of the body until something would be figured out. You know, it would have to.
She says we got charged for California embalming.
So yeah, he was embalmed in California and then then air trade flown back to Indiana. But yeah. I mean, yes, my personal opinion, not knowing, because again, I would have to see the person, you know, have an idea. But my personal opinion is that the embalming was not done well, or the decomp was so advanced that versus them picking up the phone and having that conversation,
Yeah.
they just did what they thought they could do, because they figure once that person is on the plane and it goes to Indiana, it's now the Indiana Funeral Home's job.
But even if someone is grayish, blackish, cosmetic,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
when you
absolutely.
rely on your cosmetic.
Because that's the other thing. Maybe it was post-mortem stain, so maybe the vascular system, they were able to embalm him, but maybe they couldn't get the skin to clear. Maybe if he was laying on if he was a stomach sleeper and everything pulled to his face. But yeah, cosmetics. But then you have the conversation like, hey, there's going to be the use of very heavy cosmetics, so he may not look like himself. But again, it's having the conversation with the family, and no one wants to have the hard conversations.
Right.
But now you have the reputation that you're not good at what you're doing, and this is the type of work you're putting out to families.
Yeah.
So which would you rather have?
Appropriate wording, a calming voice make a big difference. I think some people, like you said, are just afraid to come out and say, hey, you're going to walk in the room and notice a smell.
I'm just going to put this up very quickly.
Give me 1 second.
There was another one too that I'll pull it up by Catherine's. Where is it?
You okay? Our kitchen's a busy place today. We've been baking cookies. I made meatballs. Oh, we made everything. Tuna salad sandwiches. This was so nice to not do anything this weekend. This is the first weekend we haven't had to do anything, like nothing.
Just to be able to.
We went to church this morning. That was it. Yesterday we played outside. The boys wanted to ride dirt bikes in the backyard, so we sat back in the woods, and it's been amazing. That was very random, but I had to tell you that.
I'm trying to find. There was one, and I can't remember if it was to the Esahurst Turds page or the Harkins page or to my personal page, but the lady was very, very nice, and she had talked about how, and it must have been a personal page, because it was about my coffee conversation this morning about the differences, and how did we as funeral directors, just because people would call and say they want cremation, just say, okay, here it is, and in and out the door. No explaining, no explanation, no trying to build the value of what the value, purpose, and benefits of the funeral truly are. Well, she worked for Wilbert,
okay,
at their corporate office, and she said she actually lost her job because of the downward spiral of less traditional funerals, because they're not selling full-size grave vaults and things like that. And she was very, very nice. And she had asked, I'm trying to find it, because she asked some really, really good questions. And
come here.
Here we go.
Come over.
So her name's Susan, and she goes, I agree that that is part of it, but she thinks that it's much, much more. She worked for Wilbert Corporate in Chicago for 10 years. At that time, funeral service was changing. She was in marketing as a supplier, and they would put together programs to try and educate funeral directors on the value of funerals, burial versus cremation being final disposition, with options to provide the families of viewings, rental caskets, celebrations of life. Cremation Choices was the program when the traditional burials declined that had a profound effect when you are a burial vault supplier. She had her job eliminated due to the decline in traditional funerals. But I truly believe that decline in traditional funerals and burials was when the corporate funeral homes started buying up family-owned funeral homes. That's when you saw funeral costs start to skyrocket, the acquisitions of cemeteries driving up the cost of graves. For the opening and closing, cemeteries selling funeral merchandise to families, leaving the funeral homes without those sales of vaults and sometimes caskets. that we're all part of the bottom line. And she understands the value of a funeral celebration of life. We've had family members choose cremation, but we did full visitation with rental caskets. I don't think people understand that they can do all of these things and that the value of the ceremony is important. Cremation is just the final disposition, and they need to understand the options available to them. As a funeral director, that does fall onto you to educate them to overcome the consensus of the general public that cremation is direct and that's it. Education of the value of the funeral. Before working at Wilbert, I was an office manager at a family-owned funeral home. I've been watching the reels that you and Catherine have made and been making. They are great, honest, educational, and right on the money. Being a funeral director is a calling, and it takes special people to do this. I saw it firsthand. I was fortunate to have these experiences, but I loved on and now work in the chemical industry. But it stuck with me all these years later. Keep doing what you're doing. It's a worthy and admirable profession. But I think like some of the points she made are very true. Again, I have nothing against folks that work for corporate funeral homes, but it makes you wonder if you own such a large section or chunk of the market, can you price fix? Can you drive cost of goods up or services up because you own so many? No matter, they may not know like you here, so they go down the street and it's a different name on the building, but it's still the corporate funeral home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking today, I was laying on the sofa and just owning a funeral home and being a funeral director, I'm constantly thinking about funeral service. It's very rare that I never think about, right? It's very rare that I think about something else. I'm always thinking about business. We've been on a streak lately where it's just cremation, cremation, cremation.
Yeah.
And I think back to when I first got into funeral service around, it was 2017. I mean, it was all traditional burial, It is just, I think the change really happened over COVID.
Well, we set the expectation that it was okay.
Yeah.
That you didn't have to have a service or you couldn't do this. And now it wasn't that you didn't have, you really couldn't. Now,
I was working under the previous ownership during COVID. I just want to put that out there. We did not own the Berg Funeral Home at that time, but we were limited. The state was limiting how many people we could have in the funeral home at a time.
Yeah.
And the owner said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. There were people that were coming into the funeral home seeing that we had more than 10 people there. They were reporting us to the state. We were getting phone calls from people that were unhappy with us. But how do you tell a grieving family you cannot have a funeral service? You cannot have more than 10 people here. Stay 10 feet apart.
Yep.
I know this might be a controversial subject. People might not like hearing this, but would I operate the same way if we were in that same situation? If I, now that I'm the owner of the funeral home, I don't know.
I mean, it was very, very, that sounded rough.
Welcome to 3 years old, where 1 minute he is perfectly fine and the next he is just freaking out. Should I show everyone one of the pictures that I took of Max today?
Oh, that was priceless. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Max is full of personality. And we got home from church. He went over in his playroom and he loves to play basketball. So he has a ton of these little tiny basketballs.
His face is just priceless there.
I was eating lunch. I was eating my sandwich and I almost spit my sandwich out when he came running into the kitchen. You guys. Poor Nate.
Karen asked if my husband is wanting to be cremated and I'm wanting to be buried in the ground with a full casket and he dies first. Should we get a regular casket size plot so that when he dies, he can be buried with me?
Can you put that one up again? Okay, you have to stop. Nice.
Buddy, you okay?
If my husband is wanting to be, say hi to Chris.
Sure.
Show him your basketball cookie. We made basketball cookies. It's okay.
Are you playing basketball today? Yeah. Yeah. It's all good, right?
Did the doggy try and take your cookie?
What was it? Was it Petey or Frank? Put Frank in timeout.
Should we put him in timeout?
Yeah, yeah.
And what
Bad
did
Frank.
And what did Pete do yesterday? He ate a roll of bubble gum, and then Frank ate a book, and then Frank also ate a rubber duck this morning. So if people want to know why we don't have dogs in the funeral home, that's why. Okay. If my husband's wanting to be cremated and I want to be buried in the ground with a full casket and he dies first. Yeah.
I mean, you absolutely can. Again, let me full disclosure: cemeteries are operated completely separate of funeral homes. So the regulations that a cemetery may have are just whatever their rules and regulations are. I always tell folks if a spouse is going to be cremated, my advice would be to keep the. Oh, I see Matt or Sam too.
Yep.
What's up, buddy?
Sam's at that age now where he's like, don't take pictures of me. I don't want to be on social media. But then then I hop on a live and he sits right down next to me.
But I would hold the cremated remains until the spouse that is going to have a traditional burial passes, and then the burial takes place, and then inter them both together at the same time. You might only have to then you're only going to have to pay for one opening and closing. You just might have to pay for a second rite of interment.
And they'll want all the documentation knowing who's in that casket.
Your cremation certificate, everything. Absolutely.
Okay.
So that was a good question.
Bye.
Let's see. Leanne said she saw Max's photo from earlier.
We were cracking up.
He's Facebook famous. There's that big smile. That's a big smile. You're cheesing now, buddy.
He's good. Nate's looking over at me like, are you good?
He's the social media manager now.
Loreno says, if you own a piece of property, can you be buried on that piece of property? You would need to look into the zoning ordinances, do your due diligence. Like in a neighborhood where we are, I can't imagine we could just dig a hole and bury me in the backyard. But if you have several acres, depending on how far you are from creeks, streams, bodies of water, doesn't that all play a role in it, Chris?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit on Thursday, because the reason really that tri-state scandal was probably truly found out was because the EPA got involved. And we'll talk about that more. But Ginny says, at our little town, a funeral home during COVID propped the casket in the window and people could drive by to pay their last respects. We actually did that at the funeral home I was with. I was serving my apprenticeship. We had a portico, and what we did is we opened the doors of the portico. We put the casket right at the doors. The family could stand outside under the portico, and it was a drive-through. So as their guests would come, they would be able to drive under the portico, say hi, pay their respects. The line just kept moving, and it was for a young person that unfortunately committed suicide, and it was like 4 hours worth of just constant traffic coming through. But those are the type of things we had to do to think outside of the box.
I was just going to say that you had to get clever and improvise, and
yeah,
there's a woman in, I want to say in Philadelphia, that has is it a Sprinter van? And they can they can put the casket in the Sprinter van and drive it around.
It's a mobile chapel.
Yeah. People have sent me that video and they'll say, what are your thoughts? Would you do that? Well, in our area, something like that wouldn't, I don't know. That's not going to be popular in our area, but you go somewhere like New York, Philly.
Yes.
That's great for those areas.
So somebody did ask, this question when they asked if my spouse can be cremated with sunglasses on. Somebody did ask, I think it was Addie's family member. Are there certain items that can't be placed in the crematory? And there are. Anything metal. So again, I did a lot of Sikh services, which all have cremation as a disposition, and Sikhs like a sword or a dagger. But unfortunately, we were not able to cremate that. We would have to remove it from them. Anything metal, anything glass. So if the sunglasses are actually glass, you should not cremate glass. I don't know Evan's policy. I'll probably have to ask Brooks about it. But in regards to jewelry, like in Maryland, we would not ever cremate jewelry.
We tell families if you want to put jewelry in the cremated remains, bring the jewelry into us. Once the cremation process is complete, we'll put the jewelry into the ashes or the cremated remains. But you don't want to cremate someone with jewelry because there's a strong possibility that's going to get removed at the end of the cremation.
Yeah. So we're across countries now. Martin says, hi, how are you both? He's watching from Northern Ireland.
Hey, Martin. I've seen his name pop up before.
The defibrillator and the pacemaker for sure would have to be removed prior to cremation.
And a licensed funeral director does that.
Correct. The crematory will not. We actually have it on our cremation authorization. That is a question that's asked, and you have to answer yes or no. And you are also giving us permission to remove that pacemaker prior to cremation, because that will explode in the retort.
Yeah. Someone had asked me a couple weeks ago on the Wagner, Alpner, and Berg page. He said, "Well, how do you know where it is? All you have to do is feel for it."
Yeah.
And usually, like on an older person,
it's pronounced.
They protrude, and all you do is just make a 2-inch incision and pull it out, cut the wire, and you're good.
Have you ever had them where they start setting the alarm off later?
I was just going to say that.
Room?
Yeah, I was embalming one time and I heard this sound coming from the hazardous waste container. And I'm like, what's that?
Now, and a lot of times too, most crematories, when a loved one comes into their care, they actually take, just as you're going through security, a metal detector wand, and they will wand the deceased. Because if you checked no on that authorization, maybe you didn't know, or whoever's authorizing didn't know, it'll alert. And again, everything stops. That has to be removed.
I did send someone off for cremation about 1.5 years ago. I knew they had a pacemaker, totally forgot to remove it.
Now, did you go there or did you have to bring them back?
I called the crematory and I said, I just wanted to let you know I forgot to remove it. What do you want me to do? And they said, don't worry about it. Every now and then it's okay. But
yeah, you're just gonna, it literally sounds like a 9mm pistol being shot off. What it happens is it will then ricochet. Once it explodes, it'll ricochet and it could damage the brick inside the machine.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not on every single case, you'd be okay.
Right.
Strange question, but all my pups have been cremated. Can the remains be split and placed in a casket with me and my husband? I mean,
I say check with
it's the cemetery's call.
Yeah, but also too, if you come in for a viewing and I'm walking around the room and you slip something in the casket, I don't know.
I would check with the cemetery. On that. Because here's the thing: technically, like animals and humans aren't supposed to be mingled, and religious connotation. If you put an animal in a human cemetery, in some they consider now the ground's not clean or something. So just check with your cemetery.
Right.
But as far as if you wanted to have your pets mixed with your cremated remains after the fact. If somebody brings them, I have no problem doing it. Now, one of the biggest things I saw over the last like 72 hours was in regards to the cremation video I put out about, do you receive 100% of your loved one back? And you do not. You know, for anybody to sit here and say you do, they are lying. The cremation process, over time, those bricks break or there's crevices in there. There's no way to get 100% of that cremation out of the retort for the next cremation. And folks were, like really surprised about that. And it's like, if you actually turn over the back of a cremation authorization form, they talk about this. And it's just like, commingling happens. Now, crematory will never intentionally commingle cremated remains. Never. So a crematory will not mix two sets of cremated remains together. Technically they're not supposed to. Like in Maryland, it is actually against the law for a crematory to intentionally commingle cremated remains. So it has to be done on the funeral home side. And even then, I would still have somebody sign saying that they're giving permission for that to happen. Joint replacement's going to be sifted out after the cremation process. So the retort would be put clean, and there's a metal bin that, as the retort is raked out, the cremated remains will fall into, and then everything has to become cool to the touch. And what would happen is then anything that is not bone fragment is sorted out with a magnet and a pair of like tweezers. And then the cremated remains are then processed down to the granular level that you receive back.
Do you want to pull up Dawn's comment? No, you can be cremated.
Yeah, the pacemaker just has the lithium battery. The battery will explode under the intense heat, so it has to be removed. Knee replacement. I mean, when I was cremating folks, literally some look like they should be like a bionic person with the amount of like either rods or replacements that came out. So, implants, things like that are all fine. It's just anything that is radiological. So if you have chemo radiation eggs that you can do like a implant for chemo, technically that all has to be at an acceptable level for the cremation to be able to take place. And then anything that's battery operated, the battery has to be removed.
But any body parts like knees, hips,
that's all fine.
Yeah, those aren't removed until after the cremation process
Yep.
has been completed, before they pulverize the bone, I guess is what I want to say.
I process.
Yeah.
The process, but it's exactly what it is. It's pulverization that happens. Spinal cord simulators, I've never had any issues with them. Like I said, the biggest thing that we've always been taught and trained is actually pacemakers.
This is just chaos here right now. I mean, both of these dogs are here. Hold on, let's just get a full picture. I have everyone. Everyone's here. Pete's like bugging me, keeps pushing my arm because he wants pet.
He just wants another book to eat.
Yeah. No, he wants the bubble gum.
The bubble gum.
Hi.
If you pre-plan a funeral, do you pay at that time? If so, what happens to your money if the funeral home closes prior to death? So if you pre-pay, yes, you would pay. Now, the question is, do you need to pay the entire amount? No. You can set up payments to be made over whether it be 3, 5, 7, or 10 years, but that's going to be dictated by the trust company how far they're willing to allow the payment plan to go out. If the funeral home were to close, your money is still safe. Your money is still in trust. You can then transfer that pre-need contract to a different funeral home. And I think we talked about it a while ago, me and Catherine. I think it was probably our last live that we did, our pop-up, where it's going to be at the discretion of the ownership of the funeral home you're transferring to if they're going to honor the contract. That's the discretion of the owner, because they do not. Because they're not holding those funds. They will only receive those funds upon your passing and them performing services. Linda says, thank you for all the information you're putting out. Wish I had some of the information you put out 4 years ago when my husband passed away. I would have done a few things different. And, Linda, that is why we truly do what we do. It is about educating the public and, just making sure you guys are well-educated consumers so you're not taken advantage of. So Karen asked, in preparation for Thursday's Facebook Live, with this story that you're referring to that you'll be discussing, I'm not sure I'm familiar with it. I'd love to watch it before the live feed on Thursday. And I think there's like a post maybe on the Facebook page, check a couple posts back, where we actually link the podcast that we're talking about. It's just called, the podcast title is Noble, Noble. And that, if you get a chance, I mean, honestly, if you started it today, you can binge listen to it in like 2 days. It's that good of a podcast.
Oh my.
I personally do not.
No, it's usually a fairly quick process. You don't need to take breaks. Now, there are times where I'm in the middle of embalming and the phone rings and it's an important call, so I'll shut down my equipment. I don't want to let things continue running if I'm not paying attention, because you can have swelling, things can go south. So if I have to shut the machine down for a few minutes, I will, but no breaks.
I mean, I know there are some times you just have to step away from the table for a second and take a deep breath. Because anatomical guides are great, but the human body is different for everybody. And sometimes I've had times where I'm like, I don't think this person has a carotid artery.
Right.
But it's there. It's just, you got to take your time. Take your time. Don't rush. Cody asked if we have an on-site crematory.
No. Zoning does not allow for it. And we also just don't perform enough cremation for it to make sense to make that financial investment.
I mean, let's think about it. Right now, if a minimal machine, retort, 180, 190,000. That's before installation, before permitting. Then I know running 2 machines at a high volume capacity, your gas bill for natural gas, we would give gas bills around anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 a month. So to recoup the investment, and not to mention the insurance, is astronomical. To be live back on Facebook, to be back on Facebook for, I think it's a couple days, but this does stay on our YouTube channel. So any of the actual live videos or our recorded videos or live are back on our YouTube channel, backed up there. And then you can also listen to them on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And then I guess it might be a good way to segue in and say, starting Thursday, all of the lives will be 100% just streamed from As the Hearse Turns.
Yeah.
They will not be being streamed on either of the funeral home pages. everything will be streamed directly. You can watch live on YouTube and you can watch live on the Facebook page. I would say, what do you say? I'd still think it's probably 60-40, honestly, at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, Harkins, I'm probably 70-30
Yes.
because it's a different community. It's just a different, neighborhood type thing, more traditional there. But I would say the more we get close to, Redline and York proper, we're probably, 60-40 cremation rate.
We might be getting closer to 50-50.
Do you think?
I think so. Yeah.
Now, let me ask, do you think it is because of, they come to the funeral home and they have our fees and then they go get hit with, because again, we're talking about difference in cemeteries, do you know what the cost would be at like one of what's it, Susquehanna, if they had to buy a grave?
If they had to buy a grave, I don't know, but I know traditional grave opening and closing there's $2,500 if it's not prepaid.
So you maybe, I would say maybe on the low end $2,000 for the property. So you're $4,200 just there. Oh, I gotta see. So I just paid what?
$13,000 for just
for the grave. Well, what, it's 60,000 at when you were talking about with your dad, but that was everything, right?
Yeah, my parents are they're in Florida and their neighbors just buried someone in the family, and before what did I say? Before it was the 15, like the grave opening was 12,000?
Yeah, it was something insane.
Yeah, before the $12,000 grave opening, the funeral home charges were 60,000.
No, and the old site, just so that for those that aren't aware, Catherine and Nate just leased that property.
Yeah.
On Broadway. Wow. In Wyoming, they're 90% cremation. So just direct cremation. I find it veteran cemetery services are maybe 5%, and maybe it's because there's no cemetery plot. Well, I guess if you're using a private cemetery, you would probably have a charge. But I know the veteran cemetery, there's no charge for interment of veterans' remains.
Spouses. It's free as well.
I'm wondering if it's the job of the funeral home to do whatever it takes to complete a removal. Specifically, what if a person had unalived him or herself via hanging? Is it the removal person or team's responsibility to literally get them down? I've heard old school stories back in the day where the funeral home had to, but in all my times, by the time I get there, the coroner has already done, or the medical examiner has already done their portion.
Yeah. Usually in those situations, the coroner has gotten the person on the floor for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean says, just want to say thanks to Catherine and Chris for dispelling myths about the funeral home business. There are good people like yourself taking care of families, and he is watching from Nova Scotia, Canada.
Thank you, Sean. So Jacqueline's in Melbourne. I've been paying $184 a month for several years to hopefully pay it off before I pass. My husband passed 17 years ago. I have him. He was cremated. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's going to vary.
Yeah.
It varies depending on where you are.
Yeah, and really, when it comes to payments, the funeral home does not dictate what that payment's going to be. It's the trust company, because we use a company called Funeral Directors Life Insurance Company. They hold the money in trust, and if they say, okay, your funeral is going to say, let's say $10,000, and you're 85 years old, they're only going to say, okay, we're going to do a payment plan, but we're only going to allow it to go out maybe 5 years, and your payments might be $600 or $700 a month. However, if you are 25, and I'm probably going to get flack for this, like I've done before, but if you're 25 and it's a $10,000 funeral, and they say, okay, they're going to let you go out a 10-year period, your payments are going to be significantly lower, and you're going to have that peace of mind at the end of the day that that's all taken care of.
Yep.
Penny said, thanks for taking my question. She's from Stafford, Virginia. I still would like to touch base on how a cremation unit wouldn't pay itself off in time to be a valuable asset to have when needed, or just have a market in it instead of going to another party. Well, let me see.
Okay, let me check in with you real quick. It's 5:00. We said we were going to stay on for an hour. Do we want to go a little bit longer?
I mean, I can go a few minutes longer.
Okay.
So
we've already determined it would take us 30 years to pay off a crematory if we installed one at the new property.
okay, so you guys sit down, you did the math.
We've already done the math.
Yeah. And I mean, it just doesn't. And again, like the insurance.
Yeah.
The insurance is astronomical. And then the other question is so when you go to install a cremation unit, it's not just because you own the property that you can go put a cremation unit in. You're going to have to go to the township. You have to put public notice up that you want to put a crematory in. You have to have meetings that are open for public comment and debate from the community. And if the community, and now mind you, you've already put a deposit down to start manufacturing your machine, because the lead time is anywhere 6 to 12 months, depending on the machine you want to buy. So you've put a deposit down. So now you've tied up, whether it be $20,000 or $30,000. And then you're going through all these meetings, you're going for all these hearings, you're having to pay for all of this. And then if the community decides that they can get enough momentum behind them to decline you to be able to have the permit, you've now lost that money, and you're going to have to wait for the manufacturer to then release your deposit back. So,
And excuse my language for this when I say this, but if it's not legal where you are, like we can't have a crematory where we are. Sorry, don't mind my golf club that I'm holding. If we can't have a crematory where we are, and now we're pushing for one, and we're getting out into the public, now we're going to piss off our community.
And they're not going to come to you.
Yeah.
You can Google there was crematories that a funeral home went ahead, and if there's 3 funeral homes in Maryland that had to fight for, I think it was like 8 or 9 years, and they've eventually won, but the community kept appealing and appealing and appealing. I mean, it's gone all the way through court channels, and at the end of the day, when the funeral home came out victorious, if you want to call it, the community all said, irregardless of what happens, they will never use that funeral home.
Yeah.
They will go out of their way to make sure that no one in the community goes to that funeral home, because the funeral home didn't care enough to listen about their wishes in the community.
Yeah. We spoke with our attorney about it early on. Not that we were really even remotely interested in putting in a crematory, but just to kind of get his thoughts on the topic. And he said we'd probably spend upwards of $250,000 on legal fees.
So Claire says that she feels due to your great education, more people will go back to traditional burial. I don't know. I think that honestly, that folks will, and I want to say something. I'm not a proponent. I'm not anti-cremation. I want to be cremated. However, I see the value, purpose, and benefit of a funeral. Burial is a disposition, just like cremation is a disposition. I see the value, purpose, and benefit of communal mourning, of people being able to come, pay their respects, and support my family. That is what the funeral is about. Irregardless of whether you choose burial, cremation, alkaline hydrolysis, natural organic reduction, whatever, the service is what is important. And I think, going back to my post this morning, it's where we have just said that because of you just wanting cremation and you're not wanting a service, we just want to hurry up and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It was a race to the bottom. And it's the funeral director's responsibility to explain the value, purpose, and benefit of it.
I had a call probably about a year ago, and I was talking with the family, and they said we have a plot in the cemetery, and we're going to have the full traditional funeral for mom. And I said, can you talk to me a little bit more about viewing and public viewing and this and that? And they said, because of your education on social media, we know how valuable that public viewing can be.
Yes.
So that's what they decided to do. And that was because of they watched us on social media, and I had no idea. But I loved hearing that, because people need that.
It is. And again, the funeral, when I pass away, it is not about me. It's about folks being there for Skylar. It's about folks being there for Michelle, because I already told Michelle I'm going first, and that's that. It's the support. It's being there. I'll never forget when my dad died, and the amount of people that showed up.
Yeah.
And I mean, people that I never knew, but they worked with my dad, and they're like, hey, you're told me stories about my dad that I never even knew.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And, I said it the other day. I had to steal your line. When I closed the graveside service, I talked about the two deaths, the physical death. And then the second time a person dies is when their name stops being mentioned and their memory, so I kind of mixed your stuff and Breland's stuff together, and it was phenomenal. But
awesome.
it is so true. It is so true.
Yeah.
Now somebody did ask, is it harder to embalm a refrigerated decedent that's been cold for a few days? I think it can inhibit things. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Probably gonna have a lot of flooding.
Yeah. In PA, can you bury someone and then place cremated remains on top of the vault?
It's going to be up to the cemetery, but
I've done it.
Yeah, the cemeteries in our area have allowed it.
It really, I think it's whatever, as long as they have enough clearance to be able to open up the enough space for the urn to go in, and they still have to be able to have, I don't know, but it's a certain amount of inches of dirt to the sod so that the grass will grow.
Mm-hmm.
So Shane says he agrees with me. Here in Ireland, a funeral is more open place for people to mourn. In Ireland, people bring food for the family, sometimes drinks, both for adults and kids, and it brings more community into it also. It's like when you guys embalm, it's another way to say goodbye to the deceased. In my mother community, people lined the street when her sister came home when she passed. See, that's so cool. Like if have you ever seen like the Irish funerals or like the funerals in the UK where the undertaker actually gets out and like walks in front of the hearse and like leads the funeral procession through the towns?
I have not.
It's really neat. And the townsfolk, if they're at the local, if they're at the pub or whatever, they'll come outside of their homes and they line the street and they pay their respects as the hearse and the funeral procession comes by, and then they go on about their day. The other thing I saw that was really neat is that, and it was in Ireland again, is that they actually decorate the grave. So the family would go the morning of so the grave would be open, they would dig it or be dug, And the family went and she loved flowers. So they went and actually got a ladder, went down into the grave, put greens like greenery and this draped decor and put fresh flowers all inside so that they
Oh,
said when
okay.
mom was lowered, she would be in a warmer place.
I love that.
I thought that was so neat. So we use Evans cremation.
In Leola, it's in Lancaster County, and they are amazing. Love them.
And then let's see, Kelly says, it won't happen in my lifetime, but eventually, don't you think there will have to be different ways to bury or deal with decedents' bodies just to the fact we already do. We now have alkaline hydrolysis. We have natural organic reduction. We have you have cremation. And I think
farms. Where's the one body farm? Is it in Texas?
Tennessee.
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 I want to go there. I want to see that.
I think Nate would enjoy that.
Yeah, right.
Just take if you do, that's a live video that has to happen if he goes with you.
I doubt that they even allow recording or photography.
You can find videos.
Really?
Yeah, YouTube's your best friend.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there are different things, and somebody actually did a study, and I don't know the validity of it, but I'd have to look into it. But someone said that if everyone in the United States were to die all at once, and one person were to survive, that everyone could be buried in the state of Massachusetts. So we're not going to run out of land.
Wow.
So I'll have to find it. And if I find the study, I'll put that out. But I remember hearing that. Jennifer says, as a mental health counselor, I agree about the services and support. It's so important. Your education is also helping me help people. That is really cool. That is awesome.
That's amazing feedback. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, that is cool.
I think it's easy for people to sit there and say, oh, funerals are too expensive and, just cremate me when I die. No one needs to see me, blah, blah, blah. But, like with my uncle, he took his life and I never had an opportunity to see him one last time. And I think until you go through something like that, you truly don't get how important that is. So It's easy for people to say, and dismiss it, but people need that.
Someone said, Shane again, you are correct, Chris. Certain parts of Ireland, the families hand dig the grave. And then there was one about Costa Rica. When I visited Costa Rica, the town shut down for a funeral parade with floats and mourners. See, this is like what we talked about before. Like it should be a celebration of the person. Hey, don't get me wrong. There is sadness because you have lost someone you love. But, I just want people to bust open a bottle of Jameson and have a couple shots and have fun and don't tell. Well, you know what? Go ahead, tell all the stories because I'm not going to be there for me to get in trouble. That's what this is about. Remembering, honoring the person, remembering their life, and just having fun. Some people were asking what's in Tennessee. So it's called the Body Farm, right?
The Body Farm, and is it you basically, I don't know, you just kind of decompose. They're out in the open and they study you, and I don't know. It's a little funky. I don't know. It's not something that I would want for myself, but I find it to be very interesting.
So it is. It's through the University of Tennessee. It's considered an anthropological research facility, and it's known as the Body Farm. And yeah, if you just Google Body Farm Tennessee, the first link is click here for pictures.
Let me see this. Body Farm. I can't imagine what that property smells like.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh my. That is interesting. Now I really want to go.
And then Cody said that there is options for rental caskets and still having a full traditional funeral that could be done. It absolutely is, and that's one of the main things. And here's the thing: even if the loved one chose they did not want to be viewed or be a center of attention or something like that, I still encourage folks to have something for a celebration of life, because there's something about communal mourning. But yeah, again, another great, just fun live.
Mm-hmm.
Again, folks, we really, really appreciate everyone, just engaging with us, asking the questions. So please continue to send them over. I know Catherine and I are talking. We've been talking, because we have a lot of guests lined up, but we do find so much value in this that, when our time allows, when Catherine's not, running around and trying to get things taken care of, or when I'm not swamped with calls and she's not swamped with calls, we just text each other and it's like, hey, let's go live tonight.
Yeah.
So this is stuff that may happen more often versus the actual scheduled shows. Main thing that you can do to help us is that, again, starting Thursday, none of this content from As the Hearse Turns is going to carry over to the funeral home pages. So please make sure that you're over following on As the Hearse Turns, and that, if make sure you follow us on YouTube as well, because again, Facebook only maintains the live videos for a certain amount of days, then they delete them. So you can always go back, find us on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe there to make sure that if you can't make one of the lives, that you have the notifications and can go back and watch everything on YouTube.
Can you kind of give us a rundown of what the 23rd is going to look like? What viewers should expect? Should they come up with questions? Is there going to be a time for them to ask questions?
I told Sean that we're probably going to be like 2 hours like we normally are.
Okay.
I think please, if you have questions about Tri-State, now understand that Sean is just an investigative journalist. He found out about the story. He went and investigated it. And if you listen to the podcast, it isn't like this where it's just two people talking about it. Sean actually went out into the community. He talked to family survivors, got their feedback. He actually spoke to Brent Marsh's attorney at length. So he actually went out and interviewed these people. He actually even went out, and then again, when you get to the last episode, you'll see he actually went and met Brent Marsh. They didn't discuss anything about it. Brent did not want to do that or anything, but he actually went and met him. So it's going to be, I think we're going to talk a lot about certain parts of the podcast. See, my big thing is I want to find out from Sean, and my number one question is this: after he and his folks had done this story, has their view or perception of the funeral profession changed? Because one thing I noticed in the podcast is that there is never an interview with any of the funeral homes that use Tri-State Crematory. And I'm curious to find out why. And I do know that the funeral homes that use Tri-State were involved in the settlement. And the funeral home, the amount of money those funeral homes had to pay out, it may have been something in the insurance to where they were no longer allowed to discuss anything or whatnot. But so it's going to be us talking about the episode, really finding out what got him into that. And then I'm sure if we have questions, we'll ask him, and whatever he can answer, I'm sure he will answer. He seems to be very, very nice. Then we have Carlton lined up still from National Funeral Directors Association. We have Ruth Ann Distel. We have Monica Torres. We have Ryan Thogmartin. I'm still waiting on confirmation from a funeral director out of the United Kingdom, which if we can get him to come on, I think everybody will love that story that he'll be able to tell.
Yes. And I did have a grave digger come on to
Yep.
our Wagner, Elfner, and Berg page, and I asked him to message me. I have not heard anything yet. So if anyone here is watching and listening and you dig at cemeteries and you're interested in coming on, reach out to us.
Yeah.
And then Karen wants to know about the Noble podcast. She says, is this on a streaming service or is it just a pod?
It's just a podcast. It's on.
That's what it looks like. Go to Spotify and just type in Noble.
Yeah, and it's also, so if you don't have a Spotify account or whatever, it is on Apple. Is it Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or something like that? So, again, guys, everyone, thank you for taking time on your Sunday afternoon to choose to spend it with us. Keep your eyes peeled. You never know when impromptu live might come out. And again, please, share the page to folks. Share the post. We are truly trying to educate as many folks and as many people as we can. And again, we're here to answer the questions. And if it's a question that Catherine and I can answer, we'll get the answer for you.
We'll figure it out. Yep.
Yeah. We have the network of folks that we've grown to know now. If we don't know it, we know somebody that does. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So everybody, thanks for hanging out, and we will see you guys on Thursday. So talk to you soon.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
All right, guys.